Initially, it was very difficult because I still wanted to continue playing. Sadly, the shoulder wouldn't let me, so I had to make that decision. And moreover, my body really made the decision for me. But mentally, you've still got to press the button to say, okay, it's over. But I have to admit, the first time I really missed it was the first game of the season. You sat down and watched it, and you could still feel the old. You sort of think, oh, yeah, you could do that better, or I wish I was on there. Oh, this is a great game, or this is a poor game. And the difference is when you were playing, you had the opportunity to go out on the next weekend and prove to yourself whether you could do it better or worse, and all those sorts of things. Whereas now I don't have that option. Your career's finite, but I still had another year on my contract at Bath. I was looking forward to just stepping away from the international scene, having recently retired from that, and just playing a couple of seasons out at Bath, and that wasn't to be. But I don't look back with any frustration really, because I was very lucky to have incredibly successful career with some fantastic players and teams, and to have been a small part of all of the success I would have chewed someone's hand off it. Yeah. As a 5-year-old when I first started out.
Well, your CV is amazing. 71 caps, 2 World Cup finals, 1 winners medal, 2 Six Nations, 7 Premiership titles, 2 Heineken Cups and 1 LV. Which one has given you the most personal satisfaction?
Do you know what? Sometimes the enjoyment you get from the game comes from moments that people don't really expect. I mean, I remember as a boy, I was a huge Leicester Tigers fan. I used to sit in the stands watching Dean and Rory, and when I got to run out at Welford Road for the first time, my school teacher, who was also first team coach of Tigers at the time, was there, giving me the G up before the game, and that holds really special memories for me. My first game at Welford Road, as watching it as a schoolboy growing up, and then finally getting to step foot on the field and having Rory Underwood telling me to run it in from the halfway line. I remember in my first game, I scored 2 tries that game, I think, the first and last time that happened. But yeah, but I suppose in terms of what we won during my career, I think the World Cup and before that the 2 Heineken Cups with Leicester, and certainly the first one we won, because for many years we saw ourselves as the best team in Europe, but we didn't have a title to go with that. And in 2001 we changed that with an incredible side, and it was a real special day for a club that I'd loved from a very young age.
Martin Johnson described you as one of the most committed rugby players he'd ever known and ever seen, with a complete disregard for your own safety. Where did you get that style of play from? Where did that start?
I always just loved the physical side of the game. I remember when I was 5, a young lad, Matt Foster, asked me if I wanted to come down and go rugby training, so I did. I was a fair bit bigger than him. I think as a young man growing up, if you're bigger than the other kids, it helps to get into rugby. But I remember just making my first tackles and diving around in the mud, and I just loved that side of it, and it never changed. And the school coach that I already mentioned, Ian Smith, he sort of instilled in me this: you do anything for your team and anything to get the ball back so your team can play. And that was one focus that drove me throughout my entire career. And probably he's responsible, and I'm going to look for him pretty soon and get the check for all the injuries that I sustained. But no, that commitment to a team was just something that I loved. Having sort of a group of individuals around you that you really cared about, and that you could go out and play for and put yourself on the line for them, for the benefit of the team, was something that I bought into massively. And I loved it from the age of 5 to the age of 33 when I retired. And it's just a special sport, rugby.
Of all the Moody moments from over the years, we've pinpointed a moment in the second test against Australia in 2010, less than a minute on the clock, and you absolutely smashed Quade Cooper. Is that the side of your game that you enjoy most, kind of picking out a number 10, getting him in the sights, and is that where you got your biggest kicks?
The game before, I think I'd missed about 6 tackles on him alone, because I gave him too much space, and he's got such elusive feet that I was furious with myself. And in my head I was thinking, there's no way I should play next week, and I was captain. So I sort of, I was quite honest with the guys. I said, look, that wasn't acceptable, and I had a small chat with the defensive coach, Mike Ford. Said, look, give me a chance to get back at this guy. And from the first line out, I was just targeted with going and getting him, and I did exactly that. And I felt much better anyway about myself afterwards. It's being a flanker and playing rugby is all about the combative, physical nature of the game, and that was always something I loved. And just getting stuck into each other and testing yourself against some of the best players in the world. You know, whether it was, I always loved the battle with Richie McCaw and guys like him, but also, you know, as some of the South African units that they've produced over the years.
Yeah.
You know, Brendan Venter and all those guys, Schalkberger. And yeah, it was a challenge. Always playing them was a challenge, and that's when you felt your best, you know, because you came off the field having played against some of the best players in the world, and you either knew how far you had to go to improve or where you were at then. So it was always something I really enjoyed.
And who would you say has been the best? Maybe another back row player, or a player that you played against and you actually looked at them and just thought?
There was two guys that I played with and against. You know, with was Martin Johnson, without a doubt, just a guy that you would do anything for. You know, he led by example. He was always the first, you know, out of the trenches and the first climbing into the opposition. And you know, he was blessed with an incredible amount of skill as well, which I think sometimes people forget. He's just ball skill, his array. You know, it wasn't quite into the John Eales kicking, but I imagine if he'd put in mind to kicking, he probably would have done it. He was that sort of bloke, and you were just prepared to do anything for him. You know, you really were, and I loved playing under Jono. And in terms of guys that he played against, Richie McCaw, just because he was such an incredible operator. And you know, I remember the first game I played against him, you really sort of learnt how far I needed to go to improve my game, and then, you know, the games subsequently after that, you know, was always a challenge to beat your opposite number. And yeah, so much respect for him, and just, you know, what a class operator he is in 7.
2003, the World Cup final, of course. Remember Johnny's drop goal. I mean, it's indelible on all of our minds. And then before that, Matt Dawson scurrying upfield, Martin Johnson gaining an extra few yards as well. Now, of course, had you not have taken the line out from Steve Thompson, none of that would have happened. Do you ever feel the need to remind people? Does anyone ever come up to you and thank you for taking that line out?
No, I don't feel the need to remind anyone. You know, I was lucky to even be on the field. Richard Hill, I think, got cramp, and Clive put me on. Yeah, so just to be a small part in that whole occasion was remarkable. You know, Martin Johnson's White Army, I loved it. So I don't need to be reminded about it. I was lucky to be there. I was lucky to be in a side with so many incredible individuals. Something that always lives with you, and it's incredible to think it was nearly 10 years ago. So yeah, but you know, the likes of Dorse, Johnny, you know, such a phenomenal operator, and Martin Johnson, Delalio, Back, Leonard, Woodman, you know, who sort of disappeared pretty soon after the World Cup, Bracken, and so many greats. But just to be a part of that was really something special.
Where does your World Cup winners' medal sit? Have you got it pride of place? It's not sat in a box under your stairs?
No, it's in a bag somewhere. All of my medals were with my mum until a while ago. I can actually remember where they were. It's strange, isn't it? Because, like you said, I've been very lucky to have such a successful career, and what do you do with all those bits of memorabilia? Do you put them on the walls? But I don't know. So at the minute, I've not decided what to do with it. Maybe it's coming up to the 10-year reunion. I'll finally get the shirt and the medal out and put them in a frame somewhere. But yeah, no, at the minute they were in a Sainsbury's bag for a good few years.
And so what now for Lewis Moody? I mean, you've had such a prestigious career.
I'll certainly be coaching. I've done a number of coaching sessions over the summer with St Vincent and Bermuda, the two national sides, also with some camps. So, you know, I've a great deal of enjoyment coaching, especially with kids, and when you see people learn very quickly from just a small bit of information that you can give them is one of the joys you get out of it. But whether I'll get into it in terms of a professional level, I'm not sure yet.
And what do you think? I mean, if you could, it's a really tough question, but what has rugby meant to you? What has it given Lewis Moody?
Oh, it's given me everything. It's given me the life that I lead today. So, you know, from a very young age, I had an understanding of what sport was about, and team sport in particular, about buying into your mates, and if you work hard and apply yourself to your chosen sort of career path, then you can have a great deal of success with it. And especially if you can find a group of guys that share the same sort of beliefs as you do, as we did at Leicester and with England for a long period of time. So I was very blessed that I had that many good individuals around me and good teams to have been involved with, and it was probably luck that I happened to be involved at the right time. Certainly the England career and Leicester when we won so many titles. So yeah, I owe a huge amount to rugby, and still do, which is why I think it's so important we try and give as much back as possible to the next generation coming through.